Single dad CEO thought she was late until he saw her helping a homeless man outside the restaurant. Marcus Chen checked his watch for the third time in 5 minutes. 7:18 p.m. She was late. He shifted in his seat, the leather booth creaking slightly under his weight. The restaurant hummed with the quiet conversations of other diners, the clink of silverware against fine china, the occasional burst of laughter from the bar area. Bella Notte was one of the most exclusive Italian restaurants in the city, the kind of place where reservations were made weeks in advance, and the sommelier knew more about wine than most people knew about their own families. Marcus had chosen it carefully. This dinner was important, crucial even. Sarah Mitchell was the final candidate for the Chief Operating Officer position at Chen Technologies, and on paper, she was perfect. MBA from Stanford, 10 years of experience scaling startups, a track record of turning struggling divisions into profit centers. Her references were glowing. Her interview had been impressive, but Marcus had learned long ago that paper told only part of the story. The dinner interview was his final test, the one that revealed character, how someone treated the waitstaff, how they handled unexpected situations, whether they could maintain professionalism while also being human. These things mattered more than any credential. 7:20 p.m., 20 minutes late now, his phone buzzed. Emma, his daughter. Dad, did you remember to leave money for pizza? Tyler's mom is picking us up at 8. He smiled despite his irritation and typed back quickly on the counter. Have fun. Love you. Being a single father and a CEO meant constantly juggling, constantly making sure nothing fell through the cracks. Emma was 12 now, increasingly independent, but still needing him in ways both obvious and subtle. Tonight was one of his rare evenings away, and he'd arranged it meticulously. The babysitter, the pizza money, the emergency numbers all posted on the refrigerator. And now his candidate couldn't even show up on time. Save Vindiventres PM. Marcus signaled the waiter. I'll have a glass of the Barolo, please. Certainly, sir. Should I bring water for your guest? Give it another few minutes, Marcus said, trying to keep the edge out of his voice. The waiter nodded and disappeared. Marcus pulled out his phone again, opening Sarah's profile one more time. The photo showed a woman in her mid-30s with warm eyes and a confident smile. Her LinkedIn was pristine endorsements from colleagues, articles she'd published about ethical leadership, volunteer work with several non-profits. But she was 23 minutes late. In his experience, people who were late to important meetings fell into two categories: those who didn't respect other people's time and those who were disorganized. Neither quality was acceptable in a COO. Saturday, he was about to pull up her number and call when movement outside the window caught his eye. The restaurant's front entrance was floor-to-ceiling glass, offering a clear view of the sidewalk outside. And there, kneeling on the concrete, in what looked like an expensive black dress, was a woman who matched Sarah Mitchell's photo. But she wasn't rushing toward the entrance. She wasn't checking her phone or looking harried or making excuses. She was offering a bottle of water to a homeless man sitting against the brick wall of the building next door. Marcus set down his wine glass, his irritation suddenly shifting into something else: curiosity, maybe, or surprise. He watched as Sarah knelt there, not seeming to care about her dress or the dirt on the sidewalk. The man she was speaking with looked to be in his 60s, weathered and worn, with a gray beard and clothes that had seen better days. She wasn't just handing him the water and moving on. She was talking to him, really talking, her body language open and engaged. The man gestured towards something, a small bundle beside him, which Marcus realized was a dog. Some kind of terrier mix. Sarah reached out and the dog sniffed her hand, then her face lit up with genuine delight as it licked her fingers. She pulled something else from her bag, what looked like a sandwich in plastic wrap. She offered it to the man, who hesitated, then accepted it with what Marcus could see even from this distance was profound gratitude. They talked for another minute, and then Sarah did something that made Marcus sit up straighter. She took out her phone, typed something, then showed the screen to the man. He nodded. She typed again, showed him once more. The man pointed down the street. Sarah nodded, squeezed his shoulder gently, gave the dog one more pat, and then stood. Only then did she check her watch. Even for inside the restaurant, Marcus could see her expression shift to alarm. She gathered her things, said something else to the man, probably goodbye, and hurried toward Bella Notte's entrance. Marcus sat back in his seat, something unexpected happening in his chest. Emma had once told him, when she was 8 years old, that you could tell a lot about people by how they treated animals and people who couldn't do anything for them. Dad, she'd said seriously, her small face earnest. The mean girl at school are always nice to the teacher but mean to the janitor. That's how you know they're mean girls. Out of the mouths of babes, the hostess appeared with Sarah in tow. "Mr. Chen, your guest has arrived." Sarah Mitchell looked slightly out of breath, a strand of hair escaping from her bun, and there was a small smudge of dirt on her knee, but her eyes were clear and apologetic as she approached. "Mr. Chen, I am so sorry I'm late," she said, extending her hand. "There's absolutely no excuse, and I apologize for wasting your time." Marcus stood and shook her hand. "Please sit down." "And it's Marcus." "Sarah," she said, settling into the booth across from him. "Though, honestly, you'd be well within your rights to just call me that woman who doesn't respect punctuality. Would you like something to drink?" "Water would be wonderful, actually." She paused, seeming to reconsider whatever she'd been about to say. "Water would be great." The waiter appeared, took her order, and disappeared again. An awkward silence settled over the table. Sarah looked like she was steeling herself for something. "I saw you," Marcus said quietly. Her eyes snapped to his. "I'm sorry?" "Outside with the man on the sidewalk. I saw you." Color rose in her cheeks. "Oh, yes." She took a breath. "I know this sounds like an excuse, and maybe it is, but I left early to make sure I'd be on time. I was walking past and I saw Harold. That's his name, Harold, and he looked like he was struggling. It's hot today, and he has this dog, Biscuit, and neither of them had water." "Harold," Marcus repeated. "He's a veteran," Sarah continued, her words coming faster now. "He served in Desert Storm. He told me about it once, about 3 months ago when I first met him. He used to have a place a few blocks from my apartment, but I hadn't seen him in a while. I was worried something had happened. You know him?" Yes. I mean, not well, but I walk past that corner most days on my way to the gym. We talk sometime. He found Biscuit in an alley last year, sick and scared, and he nursed her back to health. He won't go to most shelters because they won't let him keep her, and he won't abandon her." Sarah's hands were clasped on the table in front of her, her knuckles white. "I'm not trying to make excuses for being late. You have every right to be angry. It was unprofessional and disrespectful of your time. I should have just kept walking, or I should have called you, or should you have?" Marcus interrupted. She blinked. "I'm sorry? Should you have kept walking?" Sarah stared at him for a long moment. "No," she said finally, her voice quiet but firm. "No, I shouldn't have. Harold needed help. He was dehydrated and Biscuit was panting so hard. I was worried she might collapse. It was 90 degrees today. I couldn't just..." She trailed off, then straightened her shoulders. "But I also understand that this is a business dinner, and punctuality matters, and I failed that test." "What did you show him on your phone?" Marcus asked. "What?" "On your phone. I saw you type something and show him." "Oh." Sarah's expression softened. "There's a Veterans Services Center about 6 blocks from here. They have a special program for vets with pets. They'll provide food and water and basic medical care for the animals, and they have cooling centers on hot days." I looked up the address and showed Harold. He didn't know about it. "Will he go?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "He's proud. A lot of people in his situation are. They don't want charity. But I gave him the information and told him they'd welcome Biscuit, and I hope he'll at least check it out." The waiter returned with Sarah's water and Marcus's wine. They ordered. She chose the chicken piccata, he selected the ossobuco, and then they were alone again. "Can I ask you something?" Marcus said. "Of course." "Why did you bring a sandwich with you?" Sarah looked surprised, then almost embarrassed. "I always carry snacks, habit from growing up with food insecurity. My mom worked 3 jobs, and sometimes things were tight. I never forgot what it felt like to be hungry. Now I keep granola bars, crackers, sometimes sandwiches in my bag. If I don't eat them, I give them away." She paused. "That probably sounds strange." "It doesn't sound strange at all." They sat in silence for a moment. Marcus found himself reassessing everything he'd assumed in the 23 minutes he'd spent being irritated. "Tell me about your mother," he said. Sarah blinked at the change in subject, but recovered quickly. "She's remarkable. She's a nurse now, went back to school when I was in high school. She wanted to make sure I saw that it's never too late to change your path. She's the hardest working person I know. Is that where you learned about not keeping walking?" "Partly," Sarah said. "She always said that success wasn't about what you accumulated, but about whether you left people better than you found them. She'd come home exhausted from her shifts and still stop to help a neighbor or make dinner for someone who was sick." She smiled. "I used to get annoyed when I was younger. I wanted her to rest, to take care of herself. But she told me that taking care of others was how she took care of herself. That serving was how she stayed human. Marcus thought about Emma, about the lessons he tried to teach her, about how children learned more from what you did than what you said. You mentioned this was a test, he said. The dinner interview, isn't it always? Sarah replied, the last evaluation. See if the candidate can handle themselves in a social setting, if they're actually pleasant to be around, if they treat people with respect when there's no business advantage to it. And you think you failed? I was 25 minutes late to the most important professional dinner of my career, Sarah said wryly. So, yes, I think I failed. Marcus picked up his wine glass, swirling the dark red liquid thoughtfully. You know, when my wife passed away 7 years ago, I thought I knew what kind of leader I wanted to be. I thought I had it all figured out: efficiency, results, clear metrics, and measurable outcomes. Those things mattered, and they still do. He saw Sarah's expression shift: surprise, sympathy, understanding. But then I became a single father to a 5-year-old, he continued, and suddenly efficiency didn't mean much when she had a nightmare at 2 a.m. result. Didn't matter when she needed help with homework or wanted to tell me about her day. I had to learn how to be a different kind of leader at work and at home. I had to learn that sometimes the most important thing you can do is stop everything and be present for another human being. Their food arrived. They both waited until the waiter left before continuing. Emma, my daughter, she's 12 now, Marcus said. Last year, she used her birthday money to buy sleeping bags for homeless people. Not because I told her to, but because she'd read something about hypothermia deaths in the winter, and it bothered her. She said, Dad, I don't need more toys. I need those people to be warm. He cut into his osso buco, the meat falling off the bone. She's a better person than I am, honestly. She hasn't learned yet to just keep walking. I hope she never does. Sarah was quiet for a moment, her fork poised over her chicken. She sounds wonderful. She is, and she's made me better as a father, as a CEO, as a person. She's taught me that character isn't what you do when it's convenient, it's what you do when stopping costs you something. Is this still an interview? Sarah asked softly. Yes, Marcus said, but probably not the one you thought you were walking into. They ate in comfortable silence for a few minutes. The food was excellent, the wine smooth, the atmosphere relaxed. Marcus found himself genuinely enjoying the conversation when it resumed. Sarah was sharp and funny, with thoughtful opinions about leadership and scaling organizations. She asked intelligent questions about Chen Technologies' culture and challenges. She told stories about her previous roles that revealed both her competence and her humanity. But what stuck with Marcus was the way she talked about her teams not as resources or assets, but as people. She knew their families, their struggles, their aspirations. She'd taken pay cuts to protect jobs during downturns. She'd personally mentored young employees who showed promise but lacked polish. I had a boss once tell me that caring about your people was a weakness, Sarah said as they shared a tiramisu for dessert. That emotional distance was necessary for good leadership. But I've never believed that. I think emotional intelligence and genuine care are strengths, not weaknesses. I think people do their best work when they feel seen and valued, not just as employees, but as human beings. I agree, Marcus said, though it's harder to find leaders who actually practice it. Well, Sarah said with a slight smile, you did just watch me show up 25 minutes late to an important dinner because I stopped to help someone. So either I practice what I preach, or I'm really bad at prioritizing. What if it's both? She laughed. Fair point. Marcus set down his fork, decision crystallizing in his mind. Sarah, I want to offer you the position. Her eyes widened. What? CEO of Chen Technologies. Pending reference checks and standard background verification, of course. But those are formalities. I want you on my team. But I was late. I was unprofessional. You were human, Marcus interrupted. You saw someone in need, and you helped them, even though it cost you something. You didn't know I could see you. You weren't performing for an audience. You just did what you thought was right. He leaned forward. Do you know how rare that is? Do you know how many people I've interviewed who talk about values and ethics and stakeholder care, but when it comes down to it, they'll always choose the expedient path over the right one? Sarah looked stunned. I don't know what to say. Say yes, or say you need time to think about it. But know that I'm serious. I need someone who understands that business isn't just about profit margins and quarterly reports. I need someone who remembers that we're building something that affects real people's lives, our employees, our customers, our community. I need someone who won't just keep walking. She was quiet for a long moment, her eyes shining slightly. Can I ask you something? Of course. Would you have hired me if I'd been on time, but you hadn't seen what I did outside? Marcus considered the question carefully. Honestly, I don't know. You interviewed well. Your credentials are impressive. But this tonight showed me who you are in a way that no interview question could have. So maybe being late was the best thing that could have happened. Sarah laughed, a slightly watery sound. My mother always says that everything happens for a reason. Sounds like a wise woman. She is. Sarah took a breath, squared her shoulders, and met his eyes. Then yes, I'd be honored to accept the position. They shook hands across the table, and Marcus felt the rightness of the decision settle into his bones. This was the leader his company needed. This was the example he wanted Emma to see. As they finished their dessert and coffee, Marcus found himself thinking about Harold and Biscuit, about veterans who fell through society's cracks, about the small acts of kindness that could mean everything to someone struggling. Sarah, he said as they stood to leave, how would you feel about Chen Technologies partnering with that Veterans Services Center you mentioned? Maybe establishing a dedicated program for vets who have service animals or emotional support animals? Her face lit up. Really? Why not? We have the resources, it would be meaningful work, and it would set the tone for the kind of company culture we want to build one. That doesn't just talk about social responsibility, but actually practices it. I think that would be amazing, Sarah said quietly. And I think Harold and a lot of people like him would benefit enormously. They walked out together into the warm evening air. Harold was gone from his spot against the wall, hopefully on his way to the services center. The sidewalk was busy with people heading to dinner, to bars, to shows, to their lives. How many of them, Marcus wondered, would stop if they saw someone who needed help? How many would sacrifice convenience for compassion? Not enough. But maybe one person at a time, that could change. Welcome to the team, Marcus said, shaking Sarah's hand once more. Thank you, she replied, for the opportunity, and for understanding about tonight. Thank you, Marcus countered, for reminding me what good leadership actually looks like. He watched her walk away toward the subway, her stride confident despite the smudge of dirt still visible on her knee. Then he pulled out his phone to text Emma. Dinner went well. Hired someone who would like you, home in an hour. Love you. The response came almost immediately. Did you remember to tip the waiter? Marcus laughed out loud. Yes, Emma. I remembered. Good. Mom always said you could tell a lot about people by how they treat servers. He stood there on the sidewalk for a moment, his throat suddenly tight. His wife had said that. She'd said it often, in fact. And Emma remembered. She was right, he typed back. She was right about a lot of things. I know. See you soon, Dad. Marcus slipped his phone into his pocket and started walking toward his car. The city hummed around him, a million people, a million stories, a million moments of choice between keeping walking and stopping to help. He thought about Sarah, about Harold, about Emma, about all the ways that small acts of decency rippled outward in ways you couldn't always measure. Maybe that was the point. Maybe the best things in life weren't the ones you could quantify. Maybe success wasn't just about what you built or achieved, but about whether you stay human enough to recognize when someone needed a bottle of water and a moment of dignity. Marcus had come to dinner expecting to evaluate a candidate. Instead, he'd been reminded of the kind of leader and the kind of person he wanted to be. Sometimes being late was really being exactly on time for what mattered most.